show is actually going to start. So I just drum roll like this until I feel good about it. Welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina, and joining us today, the sports beat reporter. You see him around, Brett Crossley. He's on the show today. We're going to talk about St. John Neumann boys, Northumberland Christian girls, and Southern Columbia girls state title basketball games. And we'll dive into some more sports here. It's going to be a sports-driven kind of day. Trying to talk about some of the positive aspects of sports maybe after yesterday's episode, which, again, I got a lot of compliments on yesterday's show, Mark. I think did I tell you that when I first
think we were brilliant.
I don't know. Brilliant's strong, but I thought it was good. So I got a lot of compliments on yesterday's show. Before we get going, Brett, we start every show the same way. Mark, how are you feeling today?
Today I feel good.
Okay.
We wanted to have because March Madness is back. Obviously, we've got multiple local schools today going for basketball state titles. We have another one tomorrow. We wanted to have kind of a local sports expert on. We couldn't find any of those, so we got Brett. So here we go.
Brett, any rebuttal?
I thought when he said expert, it was a little strong. We got it worked out.
So I tipped my hand a little bit.
Yeah.
He's like, I thought it was going to be a compliment. Now it's going to be an insult.
So some of the games that are going on.
I think they're underway, aren't the Nori girls are underway?
Yes. So Northumberland girls are underway. This is just the schedule for today. Northumberland Christian is playing Kennedy Catholic in the girls single A. The boys single A will be at 2:40 p.m. as the schedule tip off between St. John Neumann out of Williamsport and Bishop Canavine. Am I saying that correctly? Canavine, outside of Pittsburgh. They will tip off at 2:40. And then tomorrow, sticking with the District 4, Southern Columbia girls are going to tip off at 12:10, and they are going to play Neshannock. Did I get it right, Brett?
Neshannock, that's how I'd say it.
That's how I would say it. So we'll dive in.
Sorry, what time is that?
12:10.
They're the first game.
They're the first game. Tomorrow.
And you'd also mention, not to let this go, but just because you're a fountain of information,
Sure.
that there's a local girl that's now playing out of Philly.
So there is a girl who was the conference player of the year last year, I believe, from Central Mountain, Ava Renninger. Her brother was a very good basketball player, ended up finishing his career at Lock Haven University, had a good career at Central Mountain as well. She has transferred. She is now playing for Archbishop Wood, and they are playing today in the 4A girls basketball championship at 5:10. So if you're from the Lock Haven area, Central Mountain High School, Ava Renninger is going to be playing for Archbishop Wood at 5:10 as a transfer athlete.
And you said that's out of Philly.
That's out of Philly. Now, I don't know what the transfer rules. She's on the roster. I have no idea if she's actually able to play or not, because the rules seem to be different for every school and every sport. And so who knows? Obviously, I'm rooting for her. Hopefully she is eligible. It'd be nice to see her play today, but I'm not sure of that. But her new school, Archbishop Wood, is playing as well. So little District 4 flavor in almost every single game today.
And also Villanova tonight, the lone Pennsylvania representative in March Madness, who's still alive, and they go tonight.
That's right. Let's start here because since they're already playing.
So if you hate basketball, today sucks for you.
So let's start here. We'll just Northumberland Christian. They're playing Kennedy Catholic. For those of you who don't know, Kennedy Catholic boys are coming off an incredible run right before COVID. They had one of the best teams in the state for years and years and years. They went from single A to 6A. They were the team that was beating Lourdes Catholic 32-0 in the first quarter of a state championship basketball game. Do you remember this at all? Would have been like 4, maybe 5 years ago. And so they made the jump to 6A. Their best player in that run is up for the National Player of the Year in the NCAA, the big center for Kentucky. Oshisha?
Oh, that dude.
Yes. Yeah. He was the best player for Kennedy Catholic during those runs.
So he was Nigerian?
Yes.
And then came to Pennsylvania to play high school.
Yep, and played for Kennedy Catholic. Now, thankfully,
awesome. I assume it's Pittsburgh. Whenever I get in the
it's outside of Pittsburgh.
Okay. Whenever I get like the East, all the East schools are out of Philly, all the West schools are out of Pittsburgh. And I know it doesn't work that way, but
yes. So Northumberland Christian, fortunately, they don't have to play him, but they are playing the Kennedy Catholic girls who are 25-2. Northumberland Christian, they finished 23-3. Brett was the first one to say, I don't know a ton about Northumberland Christian girls. They're one of the few teams in District 4 that I unfortunately did not get to see it all this year. Brett, you did say, though, that you felt like they have a score that kind of not carries them, but that stands out.
Emily Garvin's a good player.
Okay.
I actually, a couple years ago, when they played their first District 4 playoff game, I covered them up at Sayre, and she had a really big game. But, I mean, to think about her as a freshman on that team, leading them to their first District 4 playoff game, and now you're in a state championship game. I know that the Catholic schools and the religious schools play under a little different rules, but it's still a pretty amazing feat to get all the way there after 3 years ago, you pick up your first District 4 playoff win. So it's a cool accomplishment for them. Plus, I have covered games at Norrie Christian. I didn't this year, but it's a really cool little school just in the middle of Northumberland, right before you get over the bridge across into Sunbury. So it's cool for that little community and stuff. They really rally around the team, and it's cool to see them get to such a big game so early in their existence.
That's awesome. As of right now, it's almost halftime. Kennedy Catholic is winning 32-24 over Norrie. They call it Norrie, right?
Not
Yeah,
32-0.
Not 32-0 like they were doing to the Lord's Boys. I mean,
could you imagine how many timeouts have you burned through?
All of them.
Like just somebody make one. Just one. Just somebody.
You've burned through all of them. I mean, at that point, Lourdes as a single A school, even though they're a Catholic school, Lourdes as a single A school was playing one of the best teams in the country on that day. And so it was well,
and you might have said this and I missed it. Yeah. The dude at Kentucky.
Yes.
He was on the 32-0 team.
He was the star player for that team.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
and they actually so then they came back the next year, moved all the way up to 6A. There was a big deal because the PIAA wasn't going to let them go to 6A. And they were essentially like, we need to go to 6A. Right. They go up, and then they won the 6A, not in the same fashion. They had to really scratch and claw. But they won the 6A the year directly after they won the 1A. Really, really bonkers. So good luck to it. Is Norrie Christian, right, Brett? Have you heard people refer to it as that?
Yeah, that's what they call it up there.
Okay, yeah. So Norrie Christian, good luck to them here. It's almost halftime, down 8. I'll let you decide, Brett. Do you want to dive into St. John Neumann, or do you want to dive into Southern Columbia girls?
Let's talk Neumann. Neumann will be next up, and I've covered the Southern girls, so I have plenty to say about them.
Okay. So St. John Neumann boys, I'll just do a quick overview here.
Can we apologize for his hat before we go any further?
Go for it.
Oh, is it? There we go.
That Brett's been a Rams fan since January 8th. And he's pretending now that.
Which would still give me a month until the Super Bowl ends. So.
All right, go ahead.
You're fine. So St. John Neumann, the 1 seed out of District 4, they're playing. I'm going to pronounce it Bishop Canavine. If I'm incorrect, I apologize to any Bishop Canavines out there. They're coming off a really good win. They won 47-21 over Elk County. Neumann is coming off a great win over Pottsville Nativity, the former champs from last year. This is really, really neat, really, really cool. They've been knocking on the door for, 5, 6, 7 years now, really since, the Alize Johnson era. And they finally punched through and they were able to get there. I'm very, very curious, just thoughts on the Golden Knights, Brett, because I think we all have some stuff that we would like to say about the next two teams.
Yeah, I think Newman's the funnest team in District 4, and I apologize to anybody else, but their style
We're offended.
their style of play is so much fun. I've heard Matador defense. I think it's more of a lunge and pray defense.
Lunge and pray,
which is fitting for Neumann, but it's unbelievable to watch this team. I mean, obviously they don't not value defense. They just, I don't think, make it a priority as some other teams do. So every game ends up being a shootout. There's tons of points scored in every game. Davion Hill scored 39 in the game against Nativity to get here. So if I can guarantee anything, there's going to be a lot of points scored and probably a few highlight-worthy, worthy dunks in this game.
Sounds like when I used to play.
It does. Just some things that I really appreciate them after watching the last couple of times. Because I don't think they always get credit for some of this. Everyone talks about, obviously, the guard play and Davion and Hanif and all that stuff. I think one of the most underrated things about them, they rebound incredibly well on the offensive glass for their size. I can't tell you how many times Hanif or Davion figure out a way to get to the rim, and the ball hasn't even come off of the rim yet, and they are already on their way back up to try to gather it in the trees. So I think their tenacity, their willingness to get on the offensive glass and go after it is severely underrated. I truly believe it's, in a weird way, kind of carried them through like these state playoffs, and it's something that maybe teams aren't expecting from them. And then obviously, I mean, this sounds so simple to say, just their speed, but their willingness to play with their speed. And sometimes it looks chaotic, and any team that fast breaks, there are moments where it just looks chaotic.
Sometimes it is chaotic.
Yes, sometimes it is chaotic, but there has to be a willingness from, whether it's the coaches or the play, there has to be a willingness to like drop the reins. Mark and I talk about this all the time. There's so many coaches that want to hold on to the reins and stuff like that. Credit to Jamie, credit to the players of being willing to just kind of like, it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to look right. But if we're playing as hard as we possibly can and as fast as we possibly can at times, like that's going to be in our favor more times than not. And then the last thing I would say, they're way more disciplined offensively than they get credit for. I think sometimes people, because they don't run this like motion style, or I think they don't always get credit for like necessarily knowing what they want to do. I think most possessions, they have an idea of what's a good shot, what's not a good shot. The way they get to them is maybe sometimes like not the constructive way that other like roundabout people want it to look like. But to me, like it's much more constructive than what it looks like. I think they know what they're trying to get.
I think they play really fast, but I don't think they play very reckless.
No.
I think they are. I think Hanif is so fun to watch. I mean,
Yes.
Davion's obviously a Division I talent, but I think Hanif is so fast and handles the ball so well that he is fun to watch. And you're right, they play with I like lunge and pray. I'm going to use the lunge and pray a lot. That's but I do think if there is one fault of them, sometimes they get too comfortable taking the ball out of the net.
Sure.
But every time they have the ball, you can tell they feel like they can score.
Absolutely.
There is not a lack of confidence at the offensive end. And no, I agree with you. I don't think it's because of the speed that they play with. Sometimes it seems helter-skelter, but there's a lot more method to the madness than they get credit for.
I'd agree with that. I think sometimes too, it's just about like, does the puzzle fit? Like last year we had more talented loyal sock groups than last year, but I used to tell them like they just kind of meshed. Like they just like the third, fourth, fifth guy just fit in. I feel this Neumann team very like with the Savage kid and Dimick and like Nas, and you just look at how they kind of fit. Like the pieces. I'm sure there have been years in the past people are saying like this isn't the most talented Neumann team, and I get that, but like the pieces work. Like no one's trying to take away from the other one. No one seems jealous of the other one. I think this puzzle fits very well together compared to like other groups of the past.
But it's a guards world now.
It is.
Have they ever had two better guards than this? There's no way.
I would agree. They probably have never had two guards that can create and finish and do the things that Hanif and Davion can do.
I can't believe it.
And they're doing it consistently too.
I wonder when the last time any area team has had two guards that are this talented.
And this quick. I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that.
Well, I think it goes in with the offensive rebounding too, to be able to play at that speed and know how important, because they get in a lot of games where each possession is so important, which is kind of weird in basketball, but when you're exchanging points on both ends, that commitment to offensive rebounding is so important for them.
Well, it was the game at Pottsville, they just deflated the other team. Because even when you get a stop, or even when you're fortunate enough that they do miss at the rim, like before you've even left the ground, Davion's putting it back in, like Hanif's going up and getting it again. And then you get those second, third chance. And when you're like a 16, 17-year-old kid, it's so deflating. Like when you can get an offensive putback from an undersized player, it is one of the more, it's almost as good as a dunk because the crowd gets excited. The other team's like just kind of puts their hands up. So I think their offensive rebounding is by far the lead, like it should be talked about more. I think it's been the overwhelming factor the last couple of games for them. That's just an opinion.
No, I'll go with that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So Bishop Canavine, I know there was a team outside of, I'm trying to look it up here to see if I can find it. There was a team near Pittsburgh that was absolutely phenomenal. I believe they were Imani Christian Academy. They were kind of like my pick for the tournament like before it started because they were at State College. I had talked to Coach Jacobson about them. Bishop Canevie knocked them off. So they must have some firepower because this Imani Christian at Pittsburgh was loaded. And so for them to beat them, they can't be too shabby. So I think it's going to be a really, really good game here in a couple of hours.
Has Neumann played a team so far that is as talented as they are?
I think Pottsville Nativity was. I think they they completely outplayed Pottsville Nativity. They deserve a ton of credit. They made it look easier than what it was.
And they were at a severe size.
Severe. In Pottsville Nativity size, they're not stiffs either. Like, they can get up and down, like, they can move. It's so weird. I think sometimes, like, because we're about to talk about Southern Columbia girls, and I think even, like, Neumann boys this year, it's weird. Sometimes teams are they're playing at such a high level, and they're rolling, and the momentum, they have everything they have for them. I think sometimes they make it look too easy, and then you make teams look worse than what they are. Because I do think Pottsville Nativity was every bit as talented as Neumann. Neumann just kicked their butt. Like, Neumann just showed up and absolutely dominated that game. And so, yeah, I think Pottsville Nativity. Before that, I think they certainly were superior as far as speed and quickness and getting up and down. But Pottsville's really good, and they made them look bad.
Well, I think one of the other aspects that goes on, their coach, Jamie Spencer's only been there 2 years, but and Jamie will be the first one to tell you that he's loaded with talent, that they've got. Mm-hmm. But when you look at a coaching job like this, and the people can just immediately say, well, there's lots of people that can win with that much talent. And they're right. But the job what makes Jamie's job difficult now is the expectations, is all the outside noise. They're best players' brothers in the NBA. And it's not, as you talked about, letting go of the reins.
Yeah.
That it's not about, how when you overcoach, when you undercoach, what do you do about confidence? What do you do about just, giving the kids enough leash, but then being able to pull it back? So there's a lot more than just with a group like this. It has very little to do with drawing in bounds plays, and it has to do with kind of managing egos and personalities and confidence levels and the other kids that go around them. Because Hanif and Davion can't win on their own, even though they come close sometimes. So there's much more psychologists going on with a group like this than basic fundamental, we're working on our crossover dribble today. And Jamie's an easygoing guy. He's a very affable guy. And he is a guy that can handle this well. Sure. Because as you talk about players fitting together, there are really, really good basketball coaches that wouldn't have had this much success because they would have had to put their fingerprint all over everything.
I agree with that. I have to tell you, we at the house that I just got, we were going through the closet, and don't ask me how. There were hangers left behind, and one of the hangers was a brown Hershey's hanger. And so we ended up, I'm pretty sure it eventually got to Jamie. I think we handed it off to his wife. And then, so hopefully the Hershey hanger will bring him some luck here today at 2:40 tip off. Let's dive into it.
I got one stupid question for you, will the game be officiated differently today?
I don't know if the game will be officiated differently. I think one of the hardest, it's weird. As we went through it, I thought the officiating got better every game. And so,
that's good.
So the point I'm making is, in a weird way, if you have a talented group, which Neumann's talented, if you have guards that know how to play, really what you want is good officiating. You're not looking for things to be in your favor one way or the other. You just want your athletes to be allowed to be athletes. You want your players to be allowed to make plays. And so as you go further in the tournament, your best players tend to do better because the officiating gets better. So now there's a flow to the game. There's a momentum to the game. You can get in a rhythm as a scorer. So I think as this has gone along, I think it has helped Davion. I think it's helped Hanif. It doesn't surprise me that some of their best games have been further along in the tournament because the flow and the reffing of the game just tends to get better.
Because I know just because you get to a state level or a national level, when the girls softball team from South Williamsport, when they were out in Washington a couple years ago and they were playing on ESPN.
Yeah.
And I talked to the coach afterwards because the umpiring on TV sometimes was sketchy. And I asked him, on your way through, did you have better umpiring than you had at the national? And he said yes.
Okay.
So because sometimes you get to these and they're giving the guy like, you've been doing this 40 years. Here you go, Larry, and you can be and it's not always the top flight guys. So I just wondered if, because they're in a state championship too, do they call it extra tight? Do they call it not at all?
Yeah.
Or do they just kind of, is it typical?
No, we were fortunate. I mean, I thought ours got better every single game. And I thought our state championship game had the best referee. So hopefully Neumann today gets.
Brett, that's because they won.
Because they won? No.
If they would have lost, it would have been the worst refs ever.
So I think for Neumann, I don't think it's a coincidence. Like if you watch the last two games, the guards were allowed to play. Like dudes were allowed to make moves. Like at this level, refs aren't looking for carries. They're not looking for necessarily, like it has to be a blatant travel. They let you have contact at the rim. Like you're allowed to use your body. Like it just lets really good players be exceptional. And so I think that's going to help Neumann significantly. I find it hard to believe they won't have the two best guards on the floor. I really believe
that helps. And
what were you going to say, Brett?
240 tip-off on PCN. We can see it on TV. It's on. I don't know what channel is PCN on the regular Comcast.
I don't know.
It's because I watched your game last year on PCN.
Were you going to say something, Brett, there at the end about Neumann?
Well, Newman's a tough team to officiate because it's so up and down. I mean, I covered them in the first round of the districts against Millville, and they scored 100 points in that game. But it's got to be a challenge for an official just to stay up and down and not make calls when you're behind the play. So I kind of agree with you that if the officials stay out of it, I think it's better for Neumann or limit calls or not get ticky-tacky.
Yeah. One of the toughest things that I would imagine for Jamie and his staff and even Davion, he's going through some of the stuff, I've told multiple people, I think a lot of it for Davion is how they referee him at the rim. Because depending on how they gauge contact when he explodes up to the basket really dictates, is he going to shoot a dozen free throws or is he going to shoot 2 free throws? You know, like, is he allowed to go through people or is it a try? So I think that is one of the key things early on is how are they going to allow Davion, like, is Davion allowed to be himself at the rim? Or are they going to look at it and they're going to see this kid flying like with abandonment to the basket? And are they going to decide like, we're not letting that happen tonight?
They used to allow me to play
that way. Yeah.
So
hopefully for Davion's sake, they let him, they let athletes be athletes and they let him attack the rim and they let him be himself. But that's one of the biggest keys, in my opinion, is how they let Davion play at the rim.
You couldn't jump up and touch the rim, could you?
When I was, in high school and college, I could touch the rim.
Could you really?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I wasn't like getting the ball over the rim, but like, could I like get my fingertips on the rim? Yes. Like in college, I could. Yeah. I mean, I was like 25 pounds lighter, but like.
Well, you're just not overly tall.
I think I think the rims of Lock Haven too are like 9, 10 maybe. Like they're not. They're not there. So good luck to St. John Newman.
Jeff had those sneakers that you pumped him up before he got on your court.
Is that what it was? Were they the Grant Hill? No, the Penny Hardaways. Didn't they have the pump on the top of it? Brett, you and I have had conversations a lot about girls basketball this year. And this is from just talking to you about this, I can tell this is one of the you've had more fun covering this team than a lot of other teams.
I mean, the AA field for District 4 has just been, when you think of 3 of the last 4 teams in this field in the state tournament were from District 4.
Right.
It came down to a 3rd place team in District 4, almost knocking Southern Columbia, a 1-win team out of District 4, off to get into a state championship game. I'm excited for this team. So I've covered them through the entire postseason process, and I think they have a very good feel on this game. Kim Trotz, her first season, she's actually the daughter of another Southern Columbia coach that some people might have heard of, Jim Roth, who's had some success there.
Okay. Hold on. I need to cut you off. Jim Roth's daughter is the basketball coach?
Is the basketball coach, yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's her first year of the team.
Now, before I go any further, when did they win the state soccer title? Was it this fall or was it last year?
It was both. It was last year.
They won 2 in a row.
They won 2 in a row. So they have 11 girls on the team this year that won the state championship this year in soccer.
11 girls on the basketball team.
Yeah, one of their starters, Lauren Garat, their point guard, who played the game of her life in the semifinals to get them into this game, has won the last two. She's won the last two soccer state championships. So this will be her third in the past 2 athletic seasons.
That's a decent little run.
It's a good run.
It's fantastic.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah. And she was the leading goal scorer in both state championship wins. So it's
Great
been a nice
athlete.
little run.
Yes.
But so the funny thing with Southern is how different each game has been for them. They played Tri-Valley in a game, and Ava Novak had 0 points and attempted 3 shots, and she's their leading 3-point shooter. The next game, she drops 33 against Bishop McCourt. Allie Grizz-Cabbage has had 53 rebounds in the past 3 games.
I'll hook you up.
They've set a school record for wins in a single season. Lauren Garate told you she's their point guard, who is a big point guard. Size-wise, she's very big. She plays a physical game. She took the torch and led the game in the semifinals to get them here against Mount Carmel. It's just a very complete team that has shown an ability to just step up and let other players take over, and they trust everybody. I mean, it's amazing that Ava Novak, the game after she had 0 points, she comes out, gets the first points of the game with a 3-pointer, hits 5 in the first quarter, finishes with 7 on the game, and they just completely trusted her to do that, 1 game removed from not having a single point. So
I wouldn't have let her play at all.
yeah,
If she didn't score the last game, I would have taught her a lesson.
yeah, but it's fun. I mean, they are a fun team to watch.
And who do they have?
They have the
They're the
Neshannock. Yes. Neshannock High School. So they are
That
out
sounds
of,
like a public high school.
so they're out of, so they're out of
Still,
District 6, and they are 28-2. And they're kind of between Erie and Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
so
but
they're
who
like,
did they play?
they probably played a couple of teams. They knocked off Bellwood Antis to get there, and they're notoriously good. Like the last couple of years, they have been there in the state title game.
Montoursville football played Bellwood Antis back in the 80s. One time, because I think they lost a game because some school district was on strike, and we played Bellwood Antis. And I think there's some story. Their quarterback's dad was like a major league pitching coach. Do you remember Claude Osteen, a major league pitcher? I think he was a Phillies pitching coach at one point. Like his kid was the starting quarterback.
Okay.
It was a bizarre little story. But yes, I've heard of Bellwood.
Yeah, so they're out there. So that's who Neshannock beat to get there. And again, if you go back through previous years, Bellwood Antis has been in the state title game numerous times. So they can't be bad knocking them off. So a little like catch to this conversation. I was at Southern Columbia's only loss. They lost to Loyal Sock at Loyal Sock, so I just coincidentally happened to be there. So you think
they suck?
The opposite. I think they're very, very good. It was the first half of that game was so chaotic that it almost negated Southern's physicality. It almost negated their size. It just kind of the pace of it all. Now, the funny thing was I've seen Southern Columbia beat Bloom. I watched Southern Columbia. I'm trying to think who they beat in the first round of the PHAC tournament. Like I've seen Southern Columbia win numerous games, and they looked fine against chaos. Like they actually were kind of the ones kind of creating it a little bit. They were getting up and down. They were forcing turnovers. So I don't know what to think about them, because if their only loss came in a game where I felt like the only reason they lost is because it was too chaotic, but then that's how they're kind of successful, I don't know how you beat them.
So Loyal Sock is sitting home saying we should have won the state championship.
I don't know. Well, 2A, big difference between the 2A and the 3A. So that makes a difference as well. But yeah, I don't know how you beat this team. Like to Brett's point, they have a little bit of everything. They kind of like they've got an inside force. They've got athletes. They've got guards that can create turnovers and run the floor. Like it's not. They even shoot it fairly consistently.
In basketball, it's just if you're cold the wrong day,
sure,
there's so much, and you run into somebody that's hot the wrong day, a couple whistles can go against you. You get somebody in foul trouble. There's a scariness of, and you see it with March Madness all the time. No matter who you are, if you're a 3 versus a 14, there's a scariness of basketball that you can do everything right. You get open shots, and your good shooters just not hitting them today.
Sure.
Yeah. What makes Southern difficult, though, is that they've been able to lean on different players at different times. I haven't even mentioned her, but Summer Tillett is such a good complement to Grizz Cabbage's inside game. Those two single-handedly are tough to shut down, but when you get Novak and Colby Bernhard hitting threes and forcing the defense to kind of play off those two inside, it's just a really difficult matchup depending on, I agree with you, the shooters and stuff are always dependent on if shots are falling, but it's just a really difficult team to try to scheme against because they can go at you so many.
Well, if you
I don't
state
feel
championship soccer teams, they're going to out-athlete the other team. You would just assume.
Well, that's the funny thing is now when they're playing on court and everybody's clicking, I mean, Lauren Garrott at times can be your third best player, and I'm not taking anything away from her. I'm just saying there's so much talent everywhere that they're getting contributions from that she's, without question, I think anytime she's on the floor, she could be your top athlete no matter what the sport is. But it's amazing to see a team have an athlete of that caliber and at times not. She brings the ball up and she distributes, and that's all they need her to do.
Is it no longer a football school? Is it now girls soccer, girls basketball school?
Might be.
Is the identity 24 hours from changing?
Well, what's crazy is if you really want to go back, if you're looking back when you're thinking about the Garcia kids coming through, the football championships are there, wrestling championships are there, team and individual, track championships are there, individual, girls soccer, girls basketball. I mean, this will be my third state championship game this year, the sports calendar year covering them. They've all involved Southern. So
then here's the $64,000 question. Do they recruit as hard on the girls' side as they do on the boys' side? Go ahead, Brett. Be honest.
Anyway, I have
Answer
two
the
things.
question.
I have two things that I want to say about the girls' team. They have a lot of quality athletes. The two things.
We'll call people from Mount Carmel and get some honest answers to these recruiting questions.
I know you are. I was just gonna say. The weird thing about them is you don't feel great when you give them open shots. And that's the weirdest part because I think a lot of teams go into playing them and think we'll protect the inside or we'll try to take away drives, stuff like this, and like we'll give up. But they tend to make open shots, which I think that's what makes them really difficult. The second thing, and I want to give the Grizz Cabbage girl a ton of credit. There's a lot of people that have said like they don't like the way she plays defense or that she's lazy. And I could not agree less. I could not agree less. So if you watch a lot of these games, there is not one time where she does not attempt to get back to the other end of the floor, whether it's offense or defense. She's never not trying to get back up to the ball or trying to get back to defense. Now, depending on the speed of the game, sometimes does the game surpass her on her? Absolutely. But if you watch, like she's never stopped moving. Like she's always trying to get to one side or the other. So I think I think that's the key because you can have someone that is an interior force, but if they don't want to get back and forth to the other end, it doesn't matter.
It's hard to be a force.
Yes. And so this idea of like, well, you can try to outrun them or you can try to like, but she just keeps moving and gets back and forth enough that even when the game gets chaotic or sped up, you don't really get her away from the rim the way you think you're going to get her away from the rim. So I think she deserves a lot more credit than what most coaches probably want to give her.
I mean, she was in foul trouble against Mount Carmel. It was funny because Alyssa Reisinger for Mount Carmel was also in foul trouble. Mount Carmel's big, and they pulled her. And Grizz Cabbage never went to the bench. She stayed in. I shouldn't say she did for a minute maybe, but she stayed in the game because she does play a lot smarter than people give her credit for. I mean, I remember Ava Chapman going up. I think it was Ava Chapman going up for a layup. And Grizz Cabbage sitting there with 4 fouls in the middle of the fourth quarter, getting back in position, but not putting her hand up. I think she plays a smart game, and I think it's the same way you're talking about her conserving energy and not running or going when you have to. She just plays a smart game, and I feel like she just doesn't tire out a lot, and she is very good at defense.
Yeah. Do we have a Nori score?
I can look one up real quick. Is there anything else, Brett, before we move on from this? Is there anything else you wanted to say about him? Because I know you've watched him a lot.
Here's my general question from the outsider. So both Neumann and Southern, like neither of them are underdogs in these games, correct? Like they have just as good a chance to win. Sometimes you get in these state finals and you're like, yeah, they made it, but they're in trouble. Like last year, Brett, I don't know if Jeff will tell you this. When they got to the state, they knew they were going to kill this team.
That's not true.
That is true. He told me beforehand. He's like, we're going to. And I said,
So
please let me tell him.
Oh, you are on a roll today. So Norrie Christian is on an 18-4 run in the third quarter. They are currently up 49-40. However, Emily Garvin just picked up her fourth foul. She has 29 points and 10 rebounds right now. So you and I have talked a lot about this.
She has 29 of 49?
No, she has 29 and 10 rebounds.
They only have 49.
Yeah, they only have 40. She has 29 or 49.
That's not a bad afternoon.
So she just picked up her fourth foul. Norrie has taken her out. You and I have talked a lot of
third, you said?
I believe they're heading towards the fourth. So it's into the third, heading towards the fourth quarter. You and I have talked a lot about this, the difference between referees fouling a player out and a coach fouling a player out. I know it's really, really hard as a coach to leave somebody in with 4 fouls. I don't know. I'm of the belief that coaches foul out their players, not referees. And so what I mean by that is
final with, I assume she's a senior, since you said
she's a senior.
Do you put your arm around?
It's a very good
question.
Don't
foul out and stay in the game.
Yes, my philosophy has always been a player is going to foul themselves out. I'm not going to foul them out.
There, especially, and I know it's a state final, so this might be different. Can't you hide a girl on defense easier
I don't know.
You can hide a guy? I
guess it depends on your style, right? Are you rotating? Are you running and jumping? Fair. I guess it depends how you play. So right now, Norrie Christian has taken the lead, 18-4 run, 49-40. So we'll see where that goes. 18-4 run in the state title game. Pretty good.
And this is what I would say. Of course, I've never been in a basketball state title. The 18-4 run is amplified. If you're the team on the 4 side of that run, it is worse than just a regular game because the anxiety is heightened.
Sure.
It's harder to just focus. You're now thinking what we had, what we let slip away. So I think the momentum in the bigger games is magnified.
I would agree with that for sure. Here's the crazy part too about the Southern Columbia team. Brett might know better than I do. Aren't they only losing like 1 starter or 2? Like, aren't they relatively kind of young yet?
Yeah, they're going to have a lot of these girls back, and they've been the number one. I mean, they're out of all our teams playing right now, Southern Columbia is without question the team to beat. They've been the top team in the state in the AA classification all season. They've had 1 loss, which Jeff got to witness, but they're the team to beat. I think Neumann has a good chance too. I think all 3 of our teams have a good chance to bring this home.
Mark and I were saying before the show, we had 3 District 4 representatives last year, and now we're having 3 again this year. It is really an unbelievable run for District 4 these last 2 years.
Oh, and I think out of the AA field, you could have put any of those teams at South, Mount Carmel. Any of those teams would have advanced here and been the favorite. I guess South might have been the weakest, but South had and could have been in this game regardless. It's just amazing how good that classification's been.
North Central Pennsylvania girls basketball has never been better than it was this year.
It was pretty great.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, because you go 1 classification up, you have Bloom and Loyalsock. Yeah, I mean, they're just for teams all over that were really good. Yeah. Really,
really good. Anything else you guys wanted to kind of throw out there? I know you guys had some football stuff you were talking about before. Anything along those lines?
I have a question. Why does it seem like the Rams have $25 more million of cap space than everybody else? Can we please figure this out?
Soon.
It's a great question.
Brett's going to stop talking here.
It's a great question. The Colts got a new quarterback, though, Matt Ryan. I'm excited about that.
It's interesting. It's very interesting.
I like it. I like this.
How old is he?
Old. I like it.
It is interesting.
It's a short-term plan. It's not a long-term plan.
And they're obviously pretty good.
Yeah.
You feel like you get in the playoffs, you have a shot. I get it.
Listen, once you get people to give you something for Carson Wentz, after that, everything's a win.
Got him.
Everything's a win.
There's going to be a reality show with Carson Wentz and Baker Mayfield going, dude, like 2 years ago, we were it.
Right.
And now all of a sudden we can't get a job.
Here's anybody who's down on the whole like Colts thing. This is the only thing. Their first round pick is now higher than it was before. Their second round pick is now higher than it was before. And they picked up an extra third that they then got Matt Ryan with. So they got to move up in the first, move up in the second, keep their third round pick, and they got Matt Ryan instead of Carson Wentz.
Yeah,
I'm not saying Matt Ryan is like a long-term solution, but this is a win. Anybody who's saying it's not a win is crazy.
He's the MVP that took a team to a Super Bowl.
Yes,
I get it. And he was the orchestrator of the biggest collapse in Super Bowl history. But no, I'm with you. I'm with you. If I'm the Colts, this is a good stopgap.
Brett, you missed last week. We got to listen to Mark talk about Gonzaga basketball, and here's the best part about this. All we heard from Mark is about how Gonzaga basketball, they don't win the whole thing. They're a 1 seed, they're a 2 seed, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And I said, the beauty of this is that it's coming from a Dallas Cowboys fan. And now anytime the Cowboys come up next year, I'm going to bring up Gonzaga basketball because you can't be against Gonzaga basketball, but for the Dallas Cowboys.
But we're never the 1 seed, ever.
What were you this year?
People talk.
What were you this year?
Next December 1st, Gonzaga is going to be the number 1 team in the country again. And then they're going to play in the second round. They're going to be losing to Memphis at halftime.
But this is different because Gonzaga has gotten to the Final Four and they've gotten to the Super Bowl of March Madness.
We have won the Super Bowl. When I was a kid, we used to win it all the time.
I mean, we're pushing 30 years now. Isn't that nuts? 30 years.
The craziest thing too is I don't think the Cowboys have even been to the NFC Championship game since then.
I believe that.
There are like 5 teams. It's been a quarter century since the Cowboys have been to the Final Four of the NFL.
I believe that.
And there are a handful. I think the Lions are one. The Browns are obviously one.
So is Jerry Jones the most overrated owner/businessman in professional sports?
Yeah, because no one rates Daniel Schneider. So he gets talked about more than, yeah. I mean, Cuban won once. Cuban won once.
But the Mavs have been consistently good. They've been in the playoffs over and over. But the Cowboys had a stretch there where, like,
we weren't in the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying.
No, we had a rough go of it for a while.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, Jerry Jones gets a lot of pub time. I don't know if Jerry Jones is overrated. I don't think anyone thinks he's very good.
Was there any other moves that kind of surprised you, Brett, or ones that were? My friends were talking about Tyreek Hill, but I don't know if that move's going to end up making a difference or not.
My son told me that the Dolphins now have the 2 fastest guys in the NFL, official combine times, that Hill and Waddle are the 2 fastest guys in the NFL.
I know, knocking Tua throw to him.
That's what I said. I don't think Tua is very good.
Yeah.
He's okay. He's incredibly mediocre. That's what I think.
All right. Anything else?
I think it's amazing watching the NFL. I know my team set the blueprint, but it's amazing how one team wins the Super Bowl and then everybody follows what they do.
Sure.
Draft picks are overrated.
Yeah, how'd you get Aaron Donald?
Well, we got him in the draft.
Whoa!
We had traded, and it was from the RG3 trade,
Whatever.
so we had an extra number 1.
Whatever.
The part about the Rams process that I think teams are forgetting is that you have to bottom out first.
Well, yeah, because people forget the Rams had I don't know the exact 5-year stretch. It might have been 2008 to 2012 or 2013 or something, but they had a stretch where they won 15 games in 5 years.
Yes. That's so you can trade all your picks after 3 straight years of making the top picks consistently.
Well, you have to be in the right position too, because for the Rams, you were able to stockpile a lot of stuff without drafting a quarterback. Then you drafted your quarterback. It didn't work out, but by that time you had players that you had built a team around, and it was a matter of finding that piece. Like, I think if the Browns trading for Deshaun Watson is not the same thing as the Rams trading for Matthew Stafford, because the Browns roster has a lot of holes in it, where I felt like with the Rams, Matthew Stafford gave you an upgrade at the best position, and you had players around him where I don't know if Deshaun Watson can come in.
I think what people miss with it, they just think, they got Stafford, so they won. And their defense is so good. You have to be able to rush the quarterback. You have to be able to cover. Like, the Rams' defense was still probably better than the offense, even with all of it. Matt Stafford's good. Matt Stafford's not great. And that's Their
Yeah,
defense is great. Ramsey's great. Donald's great. They could get to the quarterback. So it just, you can't. They needed a good quarterback to give him a chance, but he's certainly not the best player on that team by any stretch.
No, I mean, he's not even. Cooper Kupp's the best player on the offense.
Yeah, I agree.
still think he elevated the team to a point where I don't know if you need an Aaron Rodgers to go win a Super Bowl if you have the talent around him. I just say.
No, if you're great everywhere else, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. If you're great everywhere else, so it's just
Trent Dilfer did win a Super Bowl. So,
I was there. I was there.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Brett. Anything else that I can't think of? I think that'll cover it. Nori, I guess I could do a Nori update before we go.
Yeah, give that. Nova's early. Gonzaga's an early game. Nova's an early game. Duke is late tonight, and Arizona's late tonight. So obviously we're at that time where we've got all good games. And again, he's going to give a Nori update here. And Neumann is next. Neumann is at 2:40. The Neumann boys.
So the most recent one, end of third quarter, Nori Christian 49, Kenny Catholic 44. So they went on a 4-0 run after they sent Garvin to the bench.
Okay, so Garvin picked up her fourth foul late third.
Yes.
So we'll see how long they sit her, or does she start the fourth?
Yes. Apparently Kennedy Catholic has a 6-foot freshman, Lake Fields. She has 21 so far. So that's coming from our good friend Chris Massey.
That's a fantastic name.
The Doc. Lake Fields is pretty good.
That's a good name.
That's a good one. So that's where we're at. 5 minutes to go. Nori Christian 54, Kenny Catholic 46. So Nori's trying to hold on. My guess is Garvin started the fourth quarter. I don't know that, but I'm making an educated guess.
How about instead of Lake? How about Strawberry?
You would call her Barry. Is that what you would do?
Strawberry Fields forever.
Yeah, but what are you gonna call? Like, you're not gonna call her Straw. You're not gonna be like Strawberry. You're gonna call her Berry. Like, what are you gonna call her?
Isn't there a kid named Apple? Isn't there?
Yeah, Gwen Stefani maybe has a daughter, or Gwen. One of the Gwens has a Apple daughter.
Yeah, somebody.
I can't remember which one.
Apple Fields. What is an Apple Field? Strawberry Fields was a Beatles song. Thank
you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to Weiss Markets, and be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. Good luck to Nori here as they try to close it out. Good luck to St. John Neumann boys, and good luck to Southern Columbia girls in their games coming up.
When baseball season officially starts, will you start wearing the A's hat and put that thing away?
Well, my Golden Knights hat. So if they
hockey
make the
playoffs.
playoffs,
there you go.
Okay, that's fine. Just get rid of the Rams thing before I get rid of it.
The A's are probably going to trade their logo here soon.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to Brett Crossley for coming on with us. He's Mark Messina. I'm Jeff Everett. We will be back tomorrow.
See ya.